and his name is JD Pure. He's into his second season as the head coach at Coastal Alabama Community College, where he has led the Coyotes to a 25 game winning streak and berth to the conference tournament in his very first year. Wow, that's pretty good. In the first year, 25 wins. Plus, on top of that, he has also produced four all conference performers, which earned first team honors. Coach Pruitt also served as a secretary of the board of the Alabama Baseball Coach Association. During the summer, Coach Pruitt assists various roles in the USA Baseball, including duties with the 13 and 14U and 15U training camps and task force. Today's episode, we're going to be going over high school baseball, JUCO transition. Also, we're going to talk about the draft itself, and we're going to also tell you how to prepare for the next level and how important it is to be adaptable to play different positions in college baseball. How you doing, Coach JD?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Awesome,
Yeah,
man. Appreciate you having me.
that's good, man. I hope that I got enough of that out for you, and I know I did.
Man,
So
you made it sound good.
that's good, bro. That's really good. And we just talked a few minutes ago, and there's some things that I didn't say in your bio. Just no, I just did not know. But let's go right to it, brother. 2007. Let's rewind. We're gonna rewind it back. 2007. You get drafted by the Oakland A's. Is that correct?
That's it.
Okay. So what were you doing that day, and how? What was that like for you?
Man, like I think like most kids, man, you grow up and that's always been, a childhood dream for a lot of kids, man. But, I think, the one thing that I would feel that really kind of separated me, I've had various situations growing up that have that really motivated me, right? Whether it was a classmate, one of my best friends in high school, we were going around in our senior class, and how everybody does, like, hey, what's your plans for next year? What are you gonna do?
Right.
And I kind of was like, hey, I've signed my baseball scholarship. My plan is to play professional baseball, man. And after class that day, man, he comes up to me. He's like, man, because I'm from a small town, 42 people in my graduating class, man. So yeah,
42.
42.
Where are you from?
Small town here in Alabama, Skipperville, Alabama.
Okay.
And GW Long High School.
Okay.
I was part of three state championships there. So man, played for a Hall of Fame coach there.
Okay.
And so man, my friend tells me after school, man, he's like, man, why'd you say that in class today? I was like, man, what you talking about? He said, why'd you say that you were going to play professional baseball? Because no one's ever going
Right.
to make it out of Skipperville, Alabama. So man, that's something honestly I hung on to for a really long time.
Right.
The days that you're tired, the days that where maybe other guys are going to go do this and this. Man, I found myself in a cage because I kind of, like I said, I hung on to that and use it as motivation, man. And so
That's
throughout
good.
my time in college, like I said, man, I just worked, and I worked my tail off, and
Mm.
had a really good junior year at the University of Montevallo, had a really good senior year, and got the opportunity to get drafted in the 23rd round, man. And so actually, man, I was back home with dad, and man, back then, obviously the draft wasn't televised or anything, man.
Right.
You had to get onto the computer and get onto the website, man. You're sitting there and they're calling out the draft picks online, and I knew a couple of teams that I had conversations with prior to the draft, and I
Okay.
had gone and worked out with for the Rays, going and worked out for the Braves, and I had one conversation with the Oakland A's, and that was
Wow.
prior to our conference tournament up in
Okay.
Millington, Tennessee, and filled out a draft card, which I don't know if they still do that now. I'm pretty sure that they don't, but I had to fill out a draft card, and I gave it back to him that day, and so pick comes up, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, every time the Braves or the Rays, because I had a really good workouts with them. Anytime their picks come up, I'm thinking like, all right, hey, this may be it. This
This
may
is
be
it.
it.
Right.
Uh, and then Oakland A's come up 23rd round, and I'm like, oh, I have one conversation with them, and then it comes
One.
across, you know, uh, that they're drafting an outfielder out of the University of Montevallo, James Derek Pruitt. Um,
And you're like, huh?
and I'm like, hold up, and I just turned and looked at my dad. And I was like, hold up. I said, "That's me." You know, that's me. And man, so a lot culminated, kind of into that one moment, man. Again, just the sacrifices that my parents made for me
Mhm.
throughout my time in high school, throughout my times in youth baseball, throughout my times in college baseball, the support that they showed me. And so man, it was a lot of emotion on both sides, from myself,
Okay.
from my dad, during that moment. And then it immediately became like, all right, now I got to wrap my head around this now. Okay, hey, this is happening now.
Right.
And so now then it was, all right, hey, kind of logistically trying to figure some things out
Correct.
with the with the scout that signed me. And so played with those guys, ended up, had a, I would say, a interesting tenure.
Okay.
After my first year, had labrum and rotator cuff surgery. So I ended up having to go back, repeat short season my second year because my arm wasn't ready. Had a pretty good year that year. Hit around 280, 282, I believe is what it was. One interesting thing about me, man, I almost broke the single season, full season record for hit by pitches in short season. Yeah. I mean, just hey, it's one of the listen. Like I said, man, I played for a high school coach, man. That was just an old school, like, hey, it's your box, you don't move. The college coach that I played for, Greg Goff, who's the head coach up at Purdue right now, same way. Hey, that
Don't
is
move.
your box, you don't move,
You don't
man,
move.
don't move. And so, man, pro ball, you're facing guys that's 94
94,
and
95.
short season ball that have no idea where it's going. And so, man, I didn't move. So, man, I think my first year I was hit. I have to go back and look it up, but I think it was right around like 37, 38 times hit by
How many
pitch.
games? Out of how many games?
Short season ball. I mean, we played. I think it was right around 70 something. 76 games is
So
what we
every other
played.
game. Every other game,
Oh yeah.
basically.
Oh yeah. So again, interesting, man. My first professional baseball game.
I'm
First
sorry.
professional baseball game. I went 0 for 0 with 3 walks, 2 hit by pitches. Okay. The very next day,
Okay.
it was a noon game. First at bat, hit by pitch. So I've got 3 hit by pitches in 2 games already. And then my very next at bat, first professional hit was a home run. And so, man, that's always a crazy story, man. Yeah, first professional game, 0 for 0, 3 walks, 2 hit by
Your
pitches.
your on base percentage is about 1,000. Well, I'm hoping, JD, if you get on base, you can steal bases.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Look at
listen, I was 48, All American my senior year at the University of Montevallo. I was 48 of 50
that's great. That's
stole,
awesome.
stolen bases, man. So I tell my guys all the time now, man. They're like, "Ah, man, coach, you can't play. You wouldn't." I'm like, "Hey, man, like, hey, don't let, just because I'm getting up in age now, don't let that fool you."
Fool you.
I
Don't
was
let it
like,
fool
"Man,
you.
I could hold my own now. I can hold my own."
I'm laughing because I'm like, I thought you're gonna bring me some record of like a different type of record. I got this. I
Yeah,
hold a record. I hold a record. What kind of record is it? What
yeah.
is it? I'm thinking
Hit by pitches.
stolen bases, runs scored, or triples.
Yeah,
Something that triple. I'm thinking triples because that's
yeah,
a unique. And you said hit by pitch. It's like,
yeah.
oh
It's
wow.
crazy, man.
I
Yeah.
don't. I don't. I don't. I don't have. I have no desire for that one.
No, man.
I have no
No, man.
desire for that one.
I tell you, man. Probably one of the scariest times I ever had in the box, man. Now, again, it was a Latin player. Again, man, he was 95 to 96.
Okay.
He was in the Cubs organization. I hit leadoff. We were playing up in Boise, Idaho, and
Oh.
up in the Northwest League. Uh,
Okay.
and so uh, I'm leadoff. I jump into the box. Obviously, we kind of get a brief scouting report on the guy. First pitch, first pitch, 94 at my head. I move out of the way. Boom, I'm getting out of there. Okay. Next pitch, 96 behind me. I said, "Oh, I'm sitting there like, man, I might not make it out of this at bat, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Then he paints 95 on the outer black. I said, man, I'm getting out of here, man. Next pitch, he throws a fastball in the outer half of the plate, man. I fly out to right field. I said, man, I'm out. I'm good. I'm good. Oh man. So yeah, that was scary,
Oh,
man. That was scary. Just kind of knowing like again, man, it's kind of just my background. It's like, man, if I see it on me, like I'm staying in there, and then all of a sudden, man, hey, this guy's, not 90, 94, 95, 90. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got,
he's gassing it up too, boy.
yeah,
He's
I got
gassing
to
it
go.
up.
I got to go.
So, so we went we went on a tangent, but that's all right,
We
man.
did, man. We
We went
did.
on a
We did.
tangent. I'm like, wait a minute, let's go back home because this. Woo! I should never ask that question. But oh Lord, thank you,
Yeah.
Lord. Question: with that 2007, so how did you prepare back then to prepare for the draft? Like, okay, it's a little different now. We know it's 2024. You go to a camp. They give you a list. You got to be here. You got to be here. We're going to be drafting. We're not going to take it around. Da 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 da. What
Right.
was different back then that versus today? How did you prepare?
Man, honestly, man, I did. Like I said, I had a couple of workouts. Our season in Division Two, our season ended right around early May.
Okay.
So, man, I had a lot of time, and I want to say I think back then the draft was right around early June, is what I
Yeah.
want to say. Right around that time because yeah, because early June, because I want to say I think we ended up starting short season kind of mid June, late June, somewhere kind of
Mm-hmm.
right around that time frame. And so man, had a couple of workouts. So obviously, man, coming back home again, everyone kind of disperses. So I went back home and I actually trained and worked out a lot with my high school team. Just trying my high school team,
Right.
the summer organization that I played with. Obviously, American Legion baseball was really
Right.
big back
Back
then.
then, yeah, yeah, I was
Uh,
in the same
so
thing. Yes.
I would go back and I would work out with those guys quite a bit, just to stay sharp, just to because again you have no idea. Hey, is it going to happen? Am I going to
Right.
get drafted? I knew I had a pretty good opportunity, but I knew independent ball was also an option as well. So again, man, it was just I did a lot of stuff on my own, trying to just stay regimented in everything that I did.
Okay.
Obviously with my lifts. I mean, every single night, going up to my high school, hitting in the cages, doing whatever I could just keep myself ready at
Ready.
that point in time.
Right.
So again, coming from a small town again,
That's what I'm
and
saying.
and being from a place where again, there's a pop up hitting facility everywhere now,
Correct.
right? But
Back
kind of
then.
back in that time, that really wasn't the case, man. So
Right.
you really just kind of had to figure it out on your own in a sense, and so lucky for me, I had some places to where I could go like I said, just keep myself sharp. So,
That's good.
um, and that was really about it, man. That
Okay.
was really about it. Just like I said, just picking up with my high school team, picking up with my summer ball team, and just trying to stay as sharp as I possibly could.
Well, that's good because nowadays, there's something to do. I mean, there's so many opportunities now. You just don't know what's good.
Right.
I had a conversation last night with a major leaguer. He's coming on my show next week, and we talked about what you're talking about. And he's up in Arizona. He was telling me ex major league player. He was an outfielder, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like back then when we were playing. We're talking about all three of us when we
Yeah.
all were playing back in the day. We didn't have all this stuff. We
Right.
we, we made the best out of nothing.
Yep.
And nowadays, kids, we're talking about the swing, and he was telling me about the swing and da 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 da. We talk. I didn't even know anything. We didn't know anything about what they call it, lifting your swing.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
swung level.
Launch angle.
Yeah, yeah, launching. We didn't talk about when we were playing. We didn't launch angle. Let's
Yeah.
just get on base. Let's hit
Yeah.
the ball.
Let's find the barrel.
Yeah, let's find the barrel. Let's hit the ball on the fat part of the barrel.
Yeah.
That was our mindset.
Yeah.
You can't see something if you can't hit something you don't see.
Right.
And so it's just interesting that we're all talking the same language.
Yeah.
And for the people that are listening to this show, they're gonna be like, what are they talking about? They must be old. No, we're not old. We're not old. We just understand. We know how to make something out of nothing. You
Yeah.
know. And
Right.
nowadays kids don't do that. They're like, well,
And two, around that time, man, for me personally, man, I really understood my swing because for me it was about feel, right? I didn't need metrics. I didn't need numbers to validate to tell me. Now, don't get me wrong; those are
Right. It's
those things
good.
are all those things are all great now, and I mean we utilize them inside of our program now. But
Correct.
um, again, man, it gave me an opportunity to really, because I was a kinesthetic learner.
Okay.
It was all about feel for me,
Okay.
and so I wasn't much of a visual learner, auditory. I mean, I had to feel certain things. So
Okay.
for me, man, it was just, hey, man, again, I would just play a simple game.
Right.
I would set a tee up, and I
Right.
would see out of 10
Right.
swings how many times I could drive the baseball with backspin to the back of the net.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
that gave me a really good sense of feel for my swing. So and it's something I continue to do, and something I continue to pass down to my players now, man.
Good.
Like, hey, you really want to know your swing, man. See how many times consistency, right? Consistency in performance is how I like to try to define success, man. So
Right.
if I can do this and have a high success rate, then again, that's going to have a lot of that's going to translate quite a bit,
Right.
once you get into the game, because man, you got enough to worry about once you get into the game, right? Velo,
Yes.
location, shapes,
Yes.
change of speeds. I mean, all those things, man. So you really got to get in there and compete. You can't be worrying about, am I collapsing my backside? Am I keeping my hands up? Did I stay in my legs? Am I like, nah,
Right.
like,
No,
man,
you got time for that.
yeah, you just so that's where your preparation, man. That's where so kind of going back to that question, man. Like it was just like I said, it's just creating that really good, solid foundation and routine for myself. And again, just really knowing who I was as an offensive player,
Right.
so that I had something to kind of to fall back on once I got up there to that level.
Okay. So, coach, let me ask you this question. So you just made a good point. So for players that are trying to get to the next level, from high school to JUCO to college or whatever, pro, how can you? What's the best advice you can give them when they are? Let's put it this way. I'm trying to paraphrase. When they're trying to be a home run hitter, when they're not a home run hitter. Other words, because everybody wants launch
Right,
angle. Everybody thinks they can hit a home run.
right,
And I want to ask you, because you're a coach, I'm a coach, you coach at a different level. My question to you is, how can you teach these kids to, like you said, you know your skills, you know what you can do.
right.
There's some players that are getting the wrong teaching. They're
Hmm.
trying to be something that they're not, and then they're frustrated. Then they get frustrated, and they come back to me at high school and say, "Well, coach, I've been going to." And no disrespect to people that train. I'm not, because I train too. But sometimes you got to know yourself, like you just said. I knew me. I know me. I'm a bunt. I can bunt on either side because I run a 6'4" 60. You're not gonna throw me out. I already
Right.
know it. If I can put it down, I'm
Yep.
getting on base. I'm getting a triple off a base hit, and I can hit the long ball. But how do you teach these kids to be the best you or study yourself? I'm not trying to make this complicated. I'm trying to figure out the best way to ask this question because you called it out really good. But I'm frustrated because I'm tired of kids so frustrated. They got the talents, coach, but they're trying to be somebody they're not.
Right. No,
So
no, no. I completely agree. Um, and honestly, it's a really good question. It's something that a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of players have issues with, and on what it is that I need to try to do to make it to the next level.
correct.
And what I'm going to do is I may kind of take a little bit of a different route when it comes to this, because for me and the team that I'm trying to build, right?
Okay.
And I tell kids this all the time, man, go somewhere where you fit philosophically,
Oh, I like
right?
that. Coach,
You
say that
know,
again. JD, say that again. I like that. Say that again.
go somewhere where you fit philosophically.
So what does that
So
mean? So break that down.
right. So for us, we're a very offensive team, and I'm not just saying from a swinging of the bat standpoint. Man, we're big on running the bases.
Okay.
We're big on hey, the baseball IQ. Because it does take that, because running bases can win and lose you ball games, right?
Yes.
And so we harp inside of our program about, we want to be intelligent, we want to be aggressive, but we want to be extremely intelligent base runners. And so when I bring guys in on visits, we have a model of, you've got the five tools, and if you want to include baseball IQ, the sixth tool in there, and it for us it varies based off of position. Me philosophically, man, I'm going to be really good defensively up the middle. Obviously, behind the plate, those two middle infielders and my center fielder. So that number, so when I rank those tools, then that defensive tool is going to be number one for those positions.
Okay.
Now, again, that the defensive tool is not going to be number one for my first baseman, all right, or my left fielder. All right,
Right.
it's going to look differently.
Different.
And so for us, man, that's when we're recruiting kids, man. It's based off of, hey, what is it? How do they fit into our system? How do they fit into our profile of a player? And so, man, recruiting services again, they're great, they're awesome, but and having relationships and connections with coaches are great, they're awesome. But I'm also one of those guys, man. I like to go see a kid in person. I like to go see a kid. Hey, I like to go see a kid whenever he's going whenever he's playing. I like to see how they handle the failure piece, right? What type of teammate are they? And how do they handle all of those things just as a baseball player? How do you carry yourself before a game? Do you have a true routine? How do you carry yourself on deck, inside the dugout, when you're in the hole? I look for all of those things because, again, man, I'm not going to get on this soapbox because I know we're limited on time, but I think that's one reason why you see so many kids now that are transferring a lot
Correct.
because
Correct.
either one, the coach that didn't necessarily do their homework, or one, the player didn't necessarily do their homework. I am completely honest with every single family that comes in on a recruiting visit. Whenever they come to see us, I said, guys, I said, this is what we do, and I lay out our entire system from what a day looks like, from what a week looks like, from what a year looks like, because I want them to know, hey, whenever they step foot on campus, they're not shocked by it. I tell them, like, hey man, this is what we're going to do, man. We're gonna do the mandatory breakfast check every single morning. Why is that important? Because, man, we can lift all the weights we want to, but man, if we're not putting the things and the amount of calories that we need and the right stuff inside of our body, and so that we can build up a good frame, a good body,
Correct.
a durable body,
Correct.
then man, we can lift all the weights we want to. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So we're going to do those types of things, man. We're going to go to study hall, man. We're going to lift weights really hard. We're going to train and we're going to practice really hard because we're going to play a certain way. We're going to play a certain style of baseball. So when kids step on campus, again, man, they know exactly who I am, what I'm going to get, and so I encourage all our guys, hey, come watch us practice because I want you to get a really good idea. So to kind of put a bow on that, man. I just feel like it's they ultimately have to understand who they are as a player.
Okay.
I'm not against, hey, trying to improve. Right, you've got to improve attributes of your game. You've got to do that in order for you to
Right.
continue to grow in this game. But I mean, if you're a 6'4" runner, right, and you're 155 pounds, and and you've got decent bat speed, man, like you got to be able to handle the bat. Because if you try to lift the baseball, then all that's gonna be a F7, a F6, F8, F9.
All
So
day.
so really, what type of value are you bringing to the table as an offensive player? You're not even utilizing your best skill set. You're not
Correct.
utilizing your best tool. So I challenge guys to really know who they are as a player and what your best tools are and what your best skill set is,
Correct.
and then try to amplify that to where inside of a game, man, that tool and that skill set really plays and it really stands out. And then as you continue to grow and mature in this game, then yeah, man, you continue to develop those other tools, to where again you're more than a one tool guy. Hey man,
Correct.
now maybe I'm a 2, 3 tool
Three.
guy.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's a challenge, man, because everyone, I think if the steroid era taught us anything is that strength plays, right? You hit the ball farther, guys are throwing harder, all that good stuff there. But I also think kind of inside of that, man, you kind of watch a lot of major league games now, especially during the regular season, which postseason baseball now you're watching it now is completely different from the way
Completely
that they
different.
play it in the regular season. But man, when you've got lineups littered. And don't get me wrong, pitching, the pitching profile of guys now is a lot more, I think, challenging than what it was in the past. But man, when you've got lineups littered with guys that are hitting 170 and 160, in the lineups, man, that's kind of, it's tough to watch. It's tough to watch. Just call it how it is. But
Right.
and so I think again the game of baseball, and so everyone sees that, right? So
Correct.
and kids, if they are watching baseball, which again I think that's one thing that kids could definitely improve on, is watching more baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, is understanding that, like, hey, what those guys do at that level, maybe it doesn't translate to that high school level, that travel
Correct.
ball level, man. It's a
Correct.
completely different game.
Different.
So them understanding that and having people around them that are smart enough to be able to see that, and
Right.
and give it some value, I think is extremely important.
Well, that was good. I mean, which leads me to that next question: adaptability. We're gonna talk about adaptability because there's a lot of players that from high school, like that I coach and used to coach or whatever the case may be, trying to go JUCO. And so let me. This is the question. So how do you teach a kid that is? Let me give you an example. Oh, what's his name? Just say this guy's a shortstop.
Yeah,
He has a hose across the dime. He throws about 97. And
yeah,
I'm throwing out numbers. Just throw numbers out there.
yeah,
But when he gets to college, they make him a catcher. But he don't want to be a catcher. How do you handle a kid that can be a multi-tool guy? Because a lot of kids don't want to change their position.
right,
I'm gonna call it what it is.
yeah,
I mean, I know a guy right now. He's a shortstop, but he probably can play another position, maybe outfield, because he
yeah,
has a hose.
right,
But when he throws the ball, he has a lift. His ball is always on a lift,
yeah,
and so you don't know where it's going. So it's kind of crazy.
mhm,
So I'm thinking, I'm like, man, you probably be a great outfielder. You got decent speed. You got a hose. You just don't have the feet for the infield.
right,
This
yeah,
that's something that we know as a coach. You don't have the
yeah,
feet,
absolutely, yeah,
and they think that's an insult. I'm like, I'm not insulting you. I'm trying to help you at the next level because I'm thinking
yeah.
next level. I'm not thinking high school.
That's
And I said, I
100%.
used to play college baseball, and I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I don't want to go on my soapbox like we just did.
Yeah.
So how do you teach a kid to be more adaptable when they make that transition to JUCO or high school or pro? I mean pro ball.
Well, and I actually think it's a lot easier now
Okay.
than what it's ever been in the past. And what I'm getting to with that is now with the new rule changes in college baseball in Division 1, where rosters are now going to be limited to 34.
Right.
Now they're still trying to figure out if they're gonna have to say, all right, that's 34 at the beginning of the fall, or if that's the
Well,
spring.
brain.
But previously, right, this year it's 40. But now you're going to cut every single roster in the Division 1 level with by 6 guys. Um, that right there with the scholarship increases and everything that everyone's talking about, which is really good for our game. But I think the one piece that I think a lot of people are failing to see and really put a point of emphasis on is that roster limitation, because two-way guys
Okay.
and utility guys are now going to be a premium because you are getting two players in one
One.
player.
Correct.
So now having that versatility of, hey, this kid can go play infield, but hey, if something happens from an injury standpoint, hey, we can
Correct.
still flex him into the outfield,
Right.
all right, because he brings a ton of value, all right, to our team being able to do that. And then again, whether that's, hey, I play infield and I'm able to jump on the bump and give
Right.
and get
Right.
collegiate hitters out.
Correct.
Those types of players now are going to be an absolute premium at the 4 year level. All right, and
Wow.
so now we've kind of changed our thought process with a lot of guys of understanding that, so that they're able to bring more value to a particular team
Okay.
that they ultimately choose. And so we have to have intentional conversations. Now, obviously, there's got to be a skill set. There's got to be some athleticism. There's got to be that want to on their
Right.
part,
Right.
but sitting them down. I've got an infielder right now, extremely athletic kid. But again, kind of what you alluded to earlier, right? We're able to see stuff with our eyes, right?
Yeah.
And
That's
say,
right.
man, hey, yeah, you get to the ball, man. You're really athletic. You play with a ton of energy. The hands are okay. The arm slot probably doesn't play as well from an infield standpoint. Man, we may want to look at pushing you into the outfield because me personally, I think that's if a 4-year school comes to look at you right now,
Correct.
um, and they see you play the infield, they're going to see the athleticism and they're going to say, okay, man, I really like the bat, but I don't think he's an infielder. We're eventually going to push. And so just having that conversation and
Sensation.
just and again, it's like, hey man, like I'm never going to tell you anything that's going to hurt you,
Correct.
right? I'm never going to do that to any of my players or anything like that. I'm never going to tell you anything that's going to hurt you, man. I'm always going to be honest with you. All right, and but I'm only going to tell you stuff that's going to help you and that's going to help you bring more value to your game and value to our team and to any team
Correct.
that you go to from here on out. So again, man, I think I think you have to have those intentional conversations with them, give them the information so that they can understand the landscape of the game now,
Okay.
right? Because it is different. And that's why I said that I think it's a lot easier to be able to have that conversation and to get more guys on board because of the landscape of baseball as it is right now.
Okay. Well, that's that's good. I mean, you've said a whole lot. I appreciate that because we deal with situations before you get the situation. Because I got to high school and you go junior
Yeah.
college, and so I see the project. Let's put it that way. The project. I mean, it could be good projects and bad projects. It just depends how you look at it. But also, we talked about earlier before the show. We talked about relationship. How important is relationships for players to get to that next level when it comes to making that right decision to go from high school to JUCO or 4 year?
Yeah, man. I mean, relationships drives everything. Whether that's from a coaching standpoint or whether that's from a player standpoint, I can't tell you how many players that we signed in our 24 class where a particular kid had a relationship maybe with a current player on our team. And so, we were able to kind of connect the dots in that way, or with a guy or a different organization, travel organization, man. So, man, relationships drives absolutely everything, and then two, again, that goes back to kind of the point that I made about, just the fit for every single kid, right? There's been some really good ball players that I've come across, but if I've developed some sort of a relationship with them, I'm get like, hey man, like I think you're a heck of a ball player, all right, but man, I think you probably be a better fit somewhere else, and
Correct.
there's nothing wrong with
Nothing
that.
wrong with that.
There's
That's right.
absolutely nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, if
That's right.
again, I've told guys before, like, man, I think you're a heck of a dang ball player, man. But I think if you really want to try to excel in an environment where you feel like you can probably be yourself and all that, I think you probably better serve just maybe trying to go play somewhere else. And again,
Correct.
there's nothing wrong with that, man. I
Correct.
mean, the under Nick Saban, the University of Alabama, that program's not for everybody, right? You
That's
know,
right.
and so again, so for that piece, man, again, it's so much about fit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so the relationships that you have with players, the relationships that players have with coaches. And it's vital to the program success, and it's vital to the players'
Correct.
success, right? Because you want them to be in an environment to where they can flourish
Correct.
personality wise. Because if they're comfortable inside of that environment, then you're going to be able to get the best version of
Best
them,
from them. That's right.
the best version of them. So that's what it's about, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
You're
the
right.
kids trying to play this game for as long as they can,
Yeah.
and they need to be in an environment where they feel like they can do that.
And with that, JD, I think that the key word you said relationship is they got to feel some kind of love, a connection.
Yep.
Because, like you said before, I mean, I transferred 3 times. I should have never transferred. I should have never transferred 3 times,
Yep.
but I didn't do the homework, like you just said. And as I got older, I learned. And
Right.
so I was like, okay, love is the master to everything. Love is everything. You got to feel some kind of love, a connection.
Mhm.
And with that, in the good book it says, "In all that getting, get an understanding." So, in other words, when you are somewhere, get an understanding what he wants, and can you deliver what he wants.
Right.
But people don't think about that. And I always use the word of God, and everything I think it says, "In all that getting, get understanding." Okay, what I need to understand.
Right.
Because if I can understand him, either I can connect or not connect, and it's
Right.
okay. But
Yeah.
the problem is we make hasty decisions and we don't make wise decisions. We
Mm,
don't ask wise counsel. We don't, other words, you know where I'm going. We ask a guy that not playing baseball, never played baseball. He just looks at TV and he plays, he gambles, for players. Well, I think you should go there. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's do the right homework. The problem is they're not doing the correct homework and
right,
asking the right questions. And most of the time, most kids nowadays, they don't want to ask questions. They
right.
just want to text you and they want to go online and look. But
Yeah.
like you said before, it's just something about meeting a person in person, connecting with him. Okay, I think he's good. He sells himself good on the internet, but he's not gonna be a good
Right.
fit. I can
And I,
just tell.
and I tell you too, man, I think, kind of part of our success, and I feel like, man, you know, this is our first year where we've been able to bring in our first recruiting class. And I feel like we've got a pretty good model that
Good.
we kind of go by. We do this same exact thing that you and I are doing right now. We do it with every single recruit that we recruit. We have the family, we have the kid, and so before we even bring them on a visit, we sit down with them just like this right here, man, and we want to have some intentional conversations with them.
Conversations.
So and I tell them like, hey, let's bring some tough questions. I want you
Correct.
guys to get, obviously we want to save some stuff for the visit, but man,
Correct.
I want you to ask the tough questions now. And then too, what that does is that whenever they do come on the visits, man, it gets that initial meet and greet, so that now, man, we can really dive into the visit, man, and we get that piece out of the way to where, man, we can be extremely intentional of getting to know and have a really good feel, that we can
Correct.
have a good feel for them, they can have a good feel for us. I've seen your face, you've seen mine. It's
Correct.
not that, right when you meet someone new, it's that hesitation, just that
Correct.
natural hesitation of,
Right.
all right, I'm gonna kind of feel this situation out a little bit.
Correct.
But I think, one thing that we've done, like I said, man, having Zoom calls with families, man, I feel like that has been a game changer for us, of
That's
just
good.
truly parents and families getting to know us, and us getting to know them a lot better. So you're right, man. It's about the connection. It's about the relationship that you have with people. That's going to drive everything.
Yeah. And that's for everything. That's not just baseball.
Yeah,
That's life,
yeah,
because all these skills that we've learned from playing baseball, we use that at work. We use that in relationships outside of work. We use it in everything we do is about relationships. You don't want to burn a bridge.
right,
That's want to throw that. I
yeah,
want to throw that out there. Don't burn a bridge,
yeah,
because once you burn it, you can't. People are not like God. They don't easily forgive. They don't easily
right,
forgive. They don't care if you lost your dog yesterday or you were
yeah.
sick. They don't care. They don't forget that. So we I just wanted to say that, but which brings me to the next question as far as college JUCO ball.
Mm.
What's the transition now coming from high school to JUCO for someone coming in your program? What are some of the things that they should, outside of your program, what should they look for in a school?
Oh man, that could go a lot of different ways, man.
Okay. Just give me a couple.
It's
Just give me the two. Just give me
yeah,
two though.
man. Um, I think a lot of guys, a lot of kids, a lot of families. Um, you know, I'm a firm believer in structure, especially for younger players, man. I feel like if you give them structure, then, because let's face it, right? There is going to be a transition
Hmm.
physically and most importantly mentally,
Oh yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
every single player whenever they go to college, right? They've been at home, they've lived at home, they've been around mom and dad, and now they're off by themselves. Now they
Oh
got to
yeah.
get themselves up. Now they got to be here, they got to be here. They don't have mom and dad telling them, where to be. So there is a transition. And then again, you're away from home, you're not seeing mom and dad every single day. So for us, and again, just in general, again, man, I think that's the one of the biggest things that we talk about with our guys, and make sure they understand, like, hey man, you're going to get homesick. That's okay, right? That's why we try to give our guys weekends off. So if they want to go in the fall, if they want to go home, man, and have a reset, hey man, they can do that. And I say probably after 3 or 4 weeks, then they get accustomed to it. Now they're not going home quite as much now, because now we're kind of getting over that transition. I think that's really the biggest piece is that I see, that that kids and players are having to deal with, transitioning from high school baseball to college baseball. Um, and then I would say, obviously, the other piece um, is I like to call it competitive stamina. And what I mean by that is that, right, is, you know, in the in the landscape of travel baseball, for the most part, right, it's a show and go, right? You show up to the
Yes,
field,
that's right.
you take a couple swings in the cage, you play catch, and then you go play.
That's right.
And you're playing on the weekends, and then you kind of doing your own thing throughout the week. And so I would say, because we've got a fairly young group this year, I would say probably for the first 3 or 4 weeks, man, we really just had to teach these guys how to have competitive stamina and how to practice, for 4 or 5 days in a week. All right, and then let's go play. Right. So
Right.
man, that takes a lot of engagement. That takes us building that piece up with them and not just throwing a whole bunch of stuff at them. As we go through those, like I said, those 3 or 4 weeks, again, building them up to that. Um, but again, I would say those two pieces, man, is the hey, I've got to stay engaged every single pitch, not just when I'm at the plate, not
Correct.
just because at the end of the day, man, right? I mean, this is college baseball, and especially from the defense standpoint, man. Hey, you get one DH spot. Okay, everybody else has got to be able to defend. so, so man, that's a premium for us, especially. So, we definitely try to put a point of emphasis on it. But again, I would say again, like I said, just the transition, them understanding that hey, it's gonna be a transition for you. It's gonna be a little bit difficult for you mentally in the beginning, but we want them to learn to get uncomfortable, to get
Yeah.
comfortable in uncomfortable situations,
Questions.
right? So again, just though bringing it to light, and again, I think for any player that's coming from high school, just knowing that hey, there is going to be that trend. And again, I went around the weight room the other day with our guys, and I said, hey man, I asked them, I said, hey, what's been the biggest transition for you from high school ball to college ball? And one of the kids like, man, coach, everybody here is good. And I'm like, yeah, man, yeah. They know, like, so again, maybe from the high school program that they came from, everybody wasn't that way, so they didn't really
Correct.
have someone pushing them,
Correct.
at their position. But again, everybody here is good, man. Everybody can play, and that's kind of one thing we tell them is like each level that you go up, everybody can play. Everybody's there
Correct.
for a reason. So what intangibles do
Do you
you
bring
have
to the
as
table?
a player that's going to set you apart from
Part.
everybody
Correct.
else?
I know I got two questions, but I'm only going to give you one. Well, actually, I
Okay.
got three questions. I'm going to give you two. One question is this. So, man, I'm trying to debate which question I want to give you because of time. I'm like, man, this is just good. I'm like, man, should I give him this question? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot. So let's do this. I'm gonna give you two questions. I got three, but I'm only gonna give you two because of time.
All right.
Question is this: what was it like for you compared to today's baseball back then? It's a pro sport, being a pro. What can you tell guys that at your coming from your program or someone that's coming from your program trying to go pro? What is the best thing to stay engaged to get to the next level?
Um, Man, this is yeah, and this is the first thing that comes to mind, and this is one thing for me personally that I had to figure out.
Okay, that's
Um,
why I want. That's why I wanted to ask you that question.
I came from, again, a high school program that was about team. I
Okay,
came from a college program
team,
that was about team.
team.
Um, and so when I was drafted and I got into pro ball, again, me, being a naive 22 year old getting into pro, I'm sitting there like, all right, hey man, we're about team. And quite honestly, it wasn't that way.
Okay,
You there was competition in college because you were competing for, obviously, for playing time and trying to win jobs, but there was still that team component, right?
correct.
Um,
But
and
pro.
again, man, I'm just being completely honest and transparent, man. I remember my first year of pro ball. You had guys that, because everybody's mindset is hey man, I'm trying to move up.
Correct.
I'm trying,
Correct.
whatever
They
I
want to
need.
get to the show. They want to get to the
Right.
show.
I'm trying to move up. So, you know, uh, junior college baseball itself is a grind, but understanding that professional baseball, you really and truly have to experience to understand truly what a grind is. Again, physically and mentally, because there are times where you do feel like, again, man, hey, I'm on this island kind of by myself
So,
at times because,
mm-hmm.
again, hey, he's trying to move up, I'm trying to move up, man. It's and so in my scenario, man, I had people on my team that was hoping that I would not have success because they wanted more playing time so that they could move up, right? So that was for me. Again, that was one piece that I kind of had to deal with. But again, just the understanding of hey man, you're playing every single day, and so going back to that term competitive stamina, man, it is. So you have to you have to be good with your nutrition, man. You
Mm,
have to be good with your physical preparation of taking
okay.
care of your body, taking care of yourself spiritually, taking care of yourself mentally. Because if you don't, man, the body's going to get weary, the body's going to get tired, and then once the body goes, then man, the mind is not too far behind.
That's right.
So being able to take time for yourself, being able to, like I said, man, I'm a firm believer in that mental game, man. I
Mm,
mean, and it's one component that I think a lot. It's been brought to light a lot more than I think we were coming through. It was
correct.
just like, hey man, like hey, go out there and go play,
Play.
and no one really kind of talked about it. But Ken Revisa, man, he really brought to light the mental side of baseball and how to deal with the quote unquote the failures of this game, man. So, man, again, you have to really take care of yourself mentally
Mm-hmm.
and physically, and once you get into pro ball, and a lot of that too. Again, now having that background of strength and conditioning, making sure that you're doing a ton of movement prep. You're doing a ton of corrective stuff throughout a season to make sure again your body just stays strong, man. So
Correct.
so I would say that piece, man, of just having a true understanding of just really and truly how to take care of yourself mentally and physically.
Well, I'm gonna back it up with this. I got something for you, which you
Uh,
probably appreciate. That there's something that I'm gonna read. It says, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that I present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service, and be not conformed to this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." The reason I read that was because you're so right. And people say, you're trying to be spiritual. No, everything is spiritual. Let's just call it what it is. Everything's spiritual. But if you don't renew your mind, because wherever the mind goes, the body's going to follow.
100%.
I know that for a fact. People says, well, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I know who I am, but I also know what I've been through.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
Right. Yeah.
I know what I've been through. And if it had not been for God and keep my mind right, even though the situation's ugly, it gets shaky sometimes, things get tough sometimes. You get a no when you want a yes, you're
Right.
disappointed, you get an injury, you can't play, you
Right.
failed a test, your girlfriend left you,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Parents sick, whatever. Things happen. That's just life. But the one thing that you said was so powerful. That's why I read that scripture was I talk about the mind. Everything starts up here.
Mm.
It's a thought. Whatever a
Yes.
man thinketh, so is he. If you think you're bum, you're gonna be a bum.
That's it.
That's just what the truth is.
That's it.
And that's just how I coach. That's how I talk. And people say, "Well, you're rough." No, I'm truthful.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm saying things that you wish you could say. But what I'm saying is, the bottom line is, we need to realize where we're at and the times we're in. And at this day and time, we need to speak the truth. Just speak the truth, even if it hurts. But let them know I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
I'm helping you,
Yes.
because the world's going to talk a whole lot worse than what I'm saying. And you
That's
know
right.
this, JD. They're going to say a whole lot worse than me.
Yeah.
So just take it for what it's worth. But with that, I got my post game question. This is the last question. This
All right.
get ready for this. It's my post game. We're ending it on this post game schedule. My post game question: if you had one person, dead or alive, who would you want to talk to on the baseball field or play with? If he can be dead or alive, whoever that person is, and why you want that person. I ask this every time I have my show. People had to give me an answer. I heard some great answers. I'm waiting to hear your answer. So,
Yeah,
dead
man.
or alive, if
Yeah,
you had one opportunity to play with one person for 30 minutes, and you can play for 30 minutes, who would that be and why?
man. That's a really good question. And
I know who mine's with, but he's still living.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm
Man, I think I'm gonna go Jackie Robinson.
okay. And why is that?
Um, Obviously, man, the pioneer. Um, you know, um, as a young, you know, African American kid coming up in a game that not a lot of African American kids play. Many times, right? I was the only black kid on
Yes,
the baseball team on the
yes,
baseball field.
me too.
Um, and and at the time that he came through, um, doing what he did and kind of setting the table for us, man. Man, I would just like to talk to him, um, about, man, what he experienced, what all he experienced, what gave him the true mental fortitude to see it through and not to succumb to the environment and the surroundings that he was in. You
Mm,
know, was it his love of the game? Was it he had a great awareness of the position that he was in and how it could possibly affect the future of the game of baseball for black players?
correct.
Um, I've never really thought about that, but I mean, just kind of thinking, asking that question, I definitely think it would have to be him, um, because, and then obviously, man, heck of a ball player. So who wouldn't want to play next to Jackie Robinson?
Jackie Robinson, yeah, yeah. You only had 30 minutes to play with him, so if
Yeah,
he had, if
yeah,
that was a wish, that's why I have this post game because after every game we always got a post game. That's
right.
meet me at the field, meet me down here. It's
Yeah,
post game, so we just went through
yeah,
the game, and I mean I appreciate that what you just said, which I'm going to say this, which I always said to every podcast. Now that you've heard JD Pruitt, the very own second year coach at Coastal Alabama. Now, I hope that you know which lane you're going in, and that is the L. The L stands for listen. Now that you've heard J.D. Pruitt speak all this wisdom and knowledge, I hope that you're listening because a lot of things we do, we don't listen. God gave us two ears and one mouth.
that's right.
So my thing is with that is that this is called the elite effect. What lane are you going in? And I use these three letters. L is for listen, because faith comes without you got to hear. You got to hear it before you can do it, right? Which the next thing is the E. E stands for execute everything that you just learned from J.D. Pruitt and Coach Laurie. Which, if you listen and you execute, JD, guess what? You should dominate.
That's it.
So that's something that is the lead effect. Which lane are you going in? I mean, because after you get all this wisdom that you talked about, all these things you learn from life and going pro, and we didn't even talk about your injuries. We didn't go there, but
Yeah,
I mean, this is something that I feel that I need to say off every show because a lot of times people listen, but are they really listening?
right.
And if you listen to something, you want to execute what you just learned. And if you execute what you learn, you should dominate. If you think about it. But the problem is we don't exercise our ears, we exercise our mouth. So, I'm gonna end it on that note. But coach, if you want to let out a shout for your school or any way for people that are listening that want to get a contact with you, if that's possible with your school, let you give that out, your
Yeah,
email or
yeah,
whatever.
man. Best way to contact me is on Twitter, at Pru334. Email jpruitt at coastalalabama.edu. Man, I'm just, for me, I didn't really think I was, again, we talked about earlier, I didn't really think I was getting into coaching, but man, God said, nope, this is what you're going to do.
Do.
Um,
That's
and,
exactly right.
and so, he put me in the high school realm first. I think to build me into the coach that I am today, he surrounded me with the people to learn from so that I could be the coach that I am today. He put me in certain situations
Thank you.
throughout my life so that I could pass those down to my players later on
Thank you.
throughout my coaching tenure. So man, that's what I'm about, man. I'm about trying um, to pass the knowledge that I've learned from my experience, from other people's experience, so that guys can take hold of that. And like you said, they can listen, because at the end of the day, success leaves clues.
Correct.
And so
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You hit it.
and so if man, if hey man, if this guy is successful doing this, then man, hey man, like, I may want to try that too, and
Correct.
that may allow me to have success as well. So that's what, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. We all, if you truly have a passion for this game, then man, you want to play it for as long as you possibly can,
Okay.
and you want to exercise every resource and every tool that there is, so that you can do that. And so that may be at the end of high school, that may be at the end of 2 year college, 4 year college, or professional baseball. But at some point, you're going to have to hang them up. But whether
Yeah.
we want to or not,
It's
but
gonna happen.
it's going to happen. But again, you want to take it to as far as you want to go, man. And so there's a lot of things that we can learn, like you alluded to, man, just about life in this beautiful game that we play. So,
Amen.
but yeah, feel free to reach out, man. I'm always about trying to help people.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. JD Pruitt, his very own Coastal Alabama coach. Hey, check him out. Send him an email. Check him out on Twitter. This is Coach Laurie. Have a blessed and prosperous day. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye bye.